Behaviorally altered, thrifty, frugal, stingy, scared, frustrated, spendthrift, parsimonious. So Deepak, Aman and Akshara, these are our characteristics. These are some adjectives, how the new consumer is defined these days. So post-COVID business will be dealing with a new kind of consumer. For businesses, a new type of consumer means a new communication strategy. But what happens when a business has to rewrite its brand guidelines, redo its entire communication plan, make changes in their T&Cs? So this is what we are going to discuss today on Sanchar.NXT with the editor of ET.com, Deepak Ajwani. Welcome, Deepak. Glad to have you with us today.
Thanks.
Next is Head Corporate Communications of PolicyBazaar, Aman Dhall. Extending a warm welcome from the agency reporter team, Aman.
Thank you. My pleasure.
And Akshaara Lalwani, who will be moderating today's discussion on this fourth episode of Sanchar Next. Thank you, Akshaara, for enabling the webinar and moderating this discussion for us.
Great to be here.
Over to you, Akshaara.
Fantastic. So thank you, Deepak and Aman. Firstly, I think this is, one of the first webinars we're doing post-COVID and sort of unlock India 1.0, so as to speak. Just a couple of interesting questions for you both. I mean, for those who are listening in, and just that, Aman comes from a journalism background, has also been with Times of India and ET. I don't think Deepak needs an introduction. I mean, we are talking about India becoming a powerhouse, and I would love both of you, Aman, you from the custodian of being on the client side with PolicyBazaar, Deepak, to you being the custodian on ET.com. What do you think does that mean for public relations professionals, the media, clients? What do you think communication in the post-COVID world really means? And what do you think are your suggestions and recommendations?
Yeah. So look, communication becomes ultra sensitive in the times of COVID and even post-COVID, because what you say and how you say will be measured, will be interpreted in multiple formats if your communication isn't clear. So that's why it's very critical how you communicate, and it's not just to external, consumers, clients, but equally internal. How I talk to my people now is only and only through video conference and phones. We are not there present one-to-one. And that's why you have to very clearly figure out how you will communicate, in what tone and at what time of the day at times. Because it is so much of screen time that people are spending. God only knows how much time they've really left of listening in. So they might hear you. Are they listening? Is equally important. The other is the language that you use. We've seen ads of products where they've used a certain line, which then they got really, really blamed at. Everyone in the social media came after one company, which, talked about needing the atta, the dough. I don't want to name the brand, but there was an error of judgment there, and people really got offended. Even a small thing normally can offend people. Here, it was a very, very big misjudgment call. So I think in the times of COVID and even post-COVID, people will be ultra sensitive on various issues. It's the psychological self sometimes that will react to some things. But also there are so many other social, economical, even sometimes political pressure now building up, that you need to be very clear and sensitive to what you communicate and how.
Absolutely. What about your side, Aman?
I think I so agree with Deepak on this. At the same time, I strongly believe that this is the new normal. Social distancing is here to stay. I think I'll say physical distancing. We have called it social distancing, and some words become actually a little fancy and grab the attention. So physical distancing in India is here to stay for at least for a next couple of years. This is the new normal. I don't know how the post-COVID world will look like, but this might become the new normal, where we are actually doing work from home. We are actually being really, really empathetic in our communication. We are first humans, then, be very, very professional in our communication. So what I feel is, I think communication is definitely gonna get a much more higher priority in the scheme of things on both the client side and both on the media side. I think people are right now far more like empathetic in their communication than they were earlier, if you look back. And I think that's going to be the new normal. And I feel the role of PR professionals is going to become very important, because eventually, you are dealing with both the sides, client side as well as the media side. You are the bridge between them. And how you communicate, how you help that trust to rebuild, that has somewhere been lacking always, will be the key to how the ecosystem will look like in the next couple of years.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just borrowing from that, a couple of perturbing questions and interesting ones as well, which are going to change the communication landscape, both from the media and the client in the PR realm, is when you're talking about more people coming online, consuming more subscription-based news. Deepak, we spoke about that. You have a whole lot of people from tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 cities, where consumer literacy becomes extremely important. People may not understand the importance of insurance, different policies, what's needed for them. Deepak, from your side, you see a whole lot of people taking citizen journalism to the next level of going to WhatsApp and social media handles, and therefore respectable and credible portals like ET and yourself become extremely crucial. So how are you going to keep that balance of literacy, as well as educating the customer, as well as achieving your end objective? And Deepak, from your side on citizen journalism, and how do we, balance what it's important to get the word out there, but sometimes it can go over the hill.
Look, for us, there is only one singular truth here. We are here to inform and educate the reader. And when I say educate, it's not the pompous that they're uneducated. It's keeping them well informed with the most accurate and relevant information. That's the very clear goal that we have, at least in our website and for media in general also. So for us, when citizen journalism happens, we will rather co-opt and collaborate, because they're exactly helping us do the cause that we have always aligned ourselves with. So I think that's a good thing, that if citizen is getting more and more involved and voicing, because it's that voice that we in the media have the power to bring to the fore and bring it on a platform where more and more people understand the issues that somebody is highlighting. So for me, I think that's very, very important, and that helps the cause that we are anyway trying to champion for. The other point that you're trying to make is that when it comes to messaging and communication, and in the realm of information that we are today present in, there's so much of misinformation that is happening. The whole concept of fake news or social viral, which can actually damage. And that is where brands like the Economic Times come into play. There is enough misinformation happening on various factors, and in fact, in the financial space or the insurance space, there's enough and more. And that is where we have to take the responsibility of educating people and making them aware what is correct and what is incorrect. How do you buy insurance? Why do you buy insurance? Why? During the times of Corona, everyone's concerned, do I have enough medical insurance? And if I do have, how do I even go about applying for it? Right? So if I get admitted to a hospital, how does the whole process work? We've been, in fact, trying to educate on every single grain of truth around the whole concept of medical insurance during this period, because there's a huge amount of interest in the readers to understand the entire process of claiming an insurance, why your claim can get rejected, if at all it gets rejected, what are the claim rates in the industry, who is best in the industry, and why. So that's a level of information that is so required in these times, and we think that's the reason why, if we relate in the most accurate form, then they will trust us. And trust is so important to not just hold and repose when we are today, but also build over a period of time. For years, we've been building. For a brand like ET, you have to continuously go back, check facts, be accurate and informed, so that the trust that the reader reposes in you, that continues and only grows from here on.
No, absolutely. And Aman, I mean, like Deepak said, I mean, you're talking about a BFSI space which has a lot of misinformation. You have a lot of people pushing out information that they are being forced to do with agendas, non-agendas. I'm not getting into that. Then you have a whole new realm of people coming in who need to be educated, who are overwhelmed by what is right, what's wrong. And then you're in a space like PolicyBazaar, who has a lot of product information, a lot of a technology first. How are you being able to do your part, not only as a company custodian, but also educating the consumer at large?
So I will go back to, my days in journalism. And I remember, hello?
Yeah, man.
Am I audible? Yeah. Yeah. So I'll go back into my days of journalism, and I recall personal finance stories were always used to be the most read one. Week after week, when we used to look at, the most read stories or the most commented stories, these stories were always ranking high. And the reason was, any bit of information you give in these stories and how much detail you go, I think people want to read. And this is something is very important to people. When, say, someone is opting for a loan, right? It's a significant amount they're going to spend on a house. So they want to know everything about in and out, if they're availing a loan, how will the prepayment happen? Are there any foreclosure charges? So education is very, very important, be it in insurance. Those categories were not even built, in which today PolicyBazaar is somewhere, leading the industry voice, the term and health insurance. Back in the day, mostly what you used to see was endowment policies, investment-linked policies. And PolicyBazaar started this whole narrative that, compare, come to the website, compare, and make a decision for yourself, the right decision. And over the years, we have partnered with media to create that awareness, going into the details of the product, to provide that content to the media that they can tell those stories to the consumer, ultimately building category. And somewhere, again, PolicyBazaar is a very, very fantastic story of storytelling, content marketing, and mass awareness using media as a partner. Today, if you look at on the search side as well, like initially it was very difficult for people to know what is term insurance, what is pure insurance. People used to think of a tax benefits linked with insurance first, or people will think of, okay, how much returns I will get. Today, they don't think so. That kind of awareness exists, and it's a work of number of years, number of interviews that we have given in the newspapers, number of articles that we have written, number of stories that have been done by reporters, decoding those products, number of shows that we have done on television shows, explaining the nitty-gritties, and from time to time, regulator, coming up with some clarifications. All these little things need clarification, need awareness for a consumer to stay updated. And I think we are very glad. We recently did a survey as well, where we actually figured out that, how this whole scenario has actually somewhere accelerated awareness about insurance. But I think somewhere that started 5-7 years back. But somewhere I think it's very satisfying when people write to us and look at insurance as for insurance, not for investment, or not buying for saving tax, but they're actually buying it to ensure, if there is a financial emergency in the future, their families are secured. they are buying a 1 crore health cover. Those kind of products are there in the market today, which were earlier very expensive. That kind of product innovation has happened. And if not for media, we wouldn't have been able to create those kind of awareness. So yeah, I think it's a fantastic awareness story on the BFSI side, majorly led by storytelling and with media as a partner.
Like PolicyBazaar, you'll have a whole bunch of players coming into the market. There's a cluttered communication. What would you tell other corporate communications professionals entering it? How do you keep your agility and your creativity and storytelling there? You've used as humor in PolicyBazaar before, but obviously we don't know if humor is the right way in a post-COVID world. Right? I mean, people are sensitive. Deepak and Rahul, we've all spoken about how emotions are backlashes of brands. So if you could tell us what you're doing and what your suggestions would be.
Whatever communication do you do, there will be always critics. You should be able to hear the voice of the consumer. Eventually, and the biggest proof is the kind of feedback you get in your inbox. And secondly, I think what's happening on the ground in terms of the demand for those products. If you're doing any communication and you are seeing a positive trend, I think definitely cutting from the noise, BFSI industry also has highest number of complaints. So no one appreciates them. And also, I will say this, and I'm not saying this because I'm saying it on behalf of PolicyBazaar. Our consumer has also not been very truthful on this side. So there have been lags both sides. It's not like, generally companies have been made scapegoat on the BFSI side, that they were not truthful, but it's also opposite. And I think somewhere, talking on behalf of PolicyBazaar, we have been always pro-consumer. In our culture, in our communication, in our objectives, everything is consumer first and even employee later. So I think the most important aspect is your ability to strongly listen to the real feedback that is coming in, looking at facts rather than look at a lot of noise that keeps happening in the background, and being able to differentiate and quickly, in case you need to take a decision, you should be agile enough to take those decisions quickly. And that keeps happening in the BFSI. I don't want to quote things, but again, our regulator has done a fantastic job. They are your ears as well. They will keep coming back to you and tell you also, this is somewhere, don't you think we can do it this way, something. But anyways, I think, all the communication from especially insurance industry side is vetted by RDA first before actually even it goes out to any consumer communication. So it's that level of vetting happening. At the same time, coming back to even like my story, when I came into this profession, communications, a lot of corporate side things, and why they hire journalists is, they think about the proximity to the media. They think that, okay, a journalist understands the media landscape fantastic, and as well as they have a proximity, so they can get their way through and get some positive publicity done. But that's not the reality. That's a perception. And I keep telling those people from journalism side who want to move, it's a far more demanding profession. You have to manage multiple stakeholders. There is a lot of coordination which is required at the back end. At the same time, you need to ensure that your content is worthy enough to find the right channels of marketing and communication. And so ultimately, content is the king. How quickly you are able to deliver content laid with facts, figures, and authenticity will define your success. For us, 5 years back, the whole conversation was how can we be on top of consumer mind space. And if you will see our marketing, search engine, and PR efforts have been in sync with that. So you will see us advertising throughout the year. Whenever you are searching on the internet, you will see anything like you search around insurance, you will see the PolicyBazaar name being thrown up first. Or you read any story, majorly you will see an expert of PolicyBazaar commenting on the same. And it's not like that we have been able to build it overnight. It has happened over a course of time. It was a very well defined.
Built in a day, right? And I absolutely understand. And just borrowing from that, Aman, just to connect the dot over here to Deepak is, I love the fact that you've spoken about authenticity, right? And Deepak, both coming from a journalism background, Deepak, you must be coming across so many stories coming to you. You know, I don't want you to get into naming people or naming clients, because this isn't about, putting anyone down. But I would love to hear from you. And I think it would be great for Aman and me to hear what would be the 5 don'ts that you've had, from corporate communications professionals in the last 3 months.
The thing is, when they call, don't tell them I can't do it. I won't. Look, they do their job and we have to do our job, and that's the beauty of our professions. But there aren't don'ts. Essentially, what has happened is corporate communication as a profession has now become, in a way, the only way to open the doors to the senior management of the company, because they do not want the senior management of the company to ever talk to any media person. And they are media trained so that they don't even blurt out a word extra that is not required or reveal anything that's required. But they're doing their job. And for us, when we build trust, we build trust to the reader. And if we are talking to the management professional, then equally we have to build trust to that person and equally to the media communication person. So it's very important that we convey in a manner and we convey what is the truth and what exactly we're trying to do. If the story that I'm trying to do has relevance to my reader, I'm pretty sure it will have relevance to any management professional or even the communication professional, because here I'm championing the cause of content. And that content is of very clear relevance and value, then everyone will rally around it. So it's very important that what is it that you're trying to convey to the reader? If he or she is interested, then everyone will cooperate and collaborate to give you the single grain of truth around it. So for me, it's the trust that you have to build. Like Aman said, there are multiple stakeholders. For us, equally, there are multiple stakeholders. If I'm falsifying information and trying to spin a headline and put an untruth in the garb of being truth, then I am actually losing trust from all. Because the reader will discover it one day. The person whom I have talked to and misquoted will discover it immediately. The communication professional will, of course, discover it and never ever bother to talk to us. And where did it all start? It started from me being untrue to my own profession. The very simple formula to this is that be true to what you are trying to do and be honest about it. Yes, sometimes you're trying to figure out truth which is unpleasant to someone.
Oh, absolutely.
And the person might not talk to you. He has the right to not talk. I have the right to still go and figure out and probe and find out the truth around it. As long as we respect and do not, hate each other for trying to do our own jobs, I think that's perfectly fine. Being responsible and being truthful, thereby to gain trust from everyone, is very important. And that's what, at least I've learned over the years. That good, bad story, if you present it right in the right format, because many times in the media, people try to contextualize it wrong, and that's also equally incorrect. It's obvious, being in the business journalism that I am, it's obvious the numbers will go bad for many companies in this quarter. So when the April, May, June numbers come out, I can use an adjective saying that sales have tanked. But hey, that's obvious. What's the point of saying tank? It was tanking right in front of our eyes.
Right.
Am I also trying to figure out one company which was beating the odds and still trying to figure out to keep their stores open and keep their sales open? And at least in the business journalism, what would be interesting is how did this company still manage to do it during the COVID? I myself have personally bought a second-hand laptop delivered by some person who sent it through delivery. And when the person came on the doorstep of our complex to deliver that laptop because I needed it, I realized he was wearing a pharmacy t-shirt. So he actually dodged everyone, fooled everyone to make sure that I got my laptop. He possibly fooled the cops, but he was delivering and he managed to do his business. He said, pharmacy ka ye t-shirt pehna hai, nobody stops me. They think I'm delivering essential goods and that's it. So someone found an interesting way to do his business. And that's an equally interesting story, and I'm interested to tell that story.
Wow.
Fantastic story.
That's creativity right there, right? I mean, and there's anyway a conversation about IT being an essential service.
True. I hope he was not selling booze using the same t-shirt though.
Oh, goodness me. That's where the lines start graying, right? I mean, there's a little bit of, black, white and gray. And that's where we all lie, right? As communications professionals, custodians, editors, etc. And my last question, of course, was, Aman, Deepak, both of you all, whether you've spoken about web, we've spoken about mobile first. We're seeing a whole trend of a cross-section of news kicking in. It's not about being straight-jacketed anymore. So, Aman, you in your personal capacity as a consumer, and then secondly, as a corporate communications lead, where are you seeing the trends? Where are you putting your money in? And where is that going for you?
See, if you will see, frankly speaking, first of all, where is the time to spend the money? I think right now, I think this thing happened so sudden. First of all, I think we were all very, very busy in ensuring, one, safety for our households. We were ensuring that, our the family members were together. And secondly, I think the whole focus was around the job. In the sense, our jobs wanted a lot of communication. We wanted to tell consumer that everything is fine here. We have employees who are working to support you, be it during claims or be it issuance of a health insurance policy. There are medicals need to be done. So there needs to be like whole lot of communication that needs to be done. So there was a lot of onus on us. So initially, I think it was for all of us. I think somewhere it was overwhelming. And I think most of the time was spent on the basic necessities, which is, I would say, food. You were ensuring that your grocery is in place. So if you are able to get that food delivery within your society, fine. If you are not, you're trying to figure out so basically, you are looking at a grocery app through which you can get that delivery. Similarly, I think then it was medicines, for our family members. There are elderly people who might need medicines, who might need checkups. So I think for me, I think last 60, 90 days, it has been mostly about a lot of information that I have consumed and disseminated. Little bit of time I spend in spending with my family, which I'm happy that I'm able to spend more, which wasn't happening. I think nothing else. I think in terms of insights.
What is Aman Dhall consuming? What are you consuming? Are you subscribing? Are you paying for any specific consumption of news? And that's my real question.
See, I was always personally
putting the next dollar.
So basically, I was always consuming news. I am in that profession where I have to consume news. I need to be utmost updated. I am subscribing to those information, but it was happening not because of COVID, but it was happening also because of the profession I am part of. I don't think much has changed except a lot of screen time, right?
Yeah.
A lot of screen time. I think somewhere you are connecting with people over the screen, which you might not have done in the past. You might have been disconnected with a lot of people. My view is, I think digital is going to shine So there is one clear trend. I think it is there in numbers as well. The readership is going up. At the same time, I think people like me are looking for news which is more detailed. There is anyways for me breaking news happening on a Twitter, on a Facebook, on a Insta. So if I have to read an insightful story, I am looking for that long format reading. And I think that's going to become a trend, at least with a certain section of society. But I think there is also a certain section of society who are happy reading those Facebook, Twitter updates. For instance, my mother, she gets all the information of the world from Facebook, WhatsApp. She's consuming all that kind of content. So I think somewhere the time has come for media houses to monetize that, put a revenue model to it. I think that's fairly important. I'm coming from media background and I'm saying this because anything that is free cannot run for long. Anything that is free will always have authenticity barriers.
Correct.
Anything which is information overload, you will never be able to control fake news.
Correct.
Anything which is paid will have verified checks. So people will move. I think depends on the storytelling of media houses. How do they actually now start building that readership base?
No, absolutely. And Deepak, I think Aman's answered that very well. We want to know Deepak as a consumer of news, any international publications, any things that you read that you've proved to be very insightful, any trends that you think, over and above what you've said in the past from web, mobile first, cross section of news, any last thoughts from your end, Deepak?
Look, I've been a consumer of news and information for many years, and I've been subscribing to international publications and paying for them for last decade almost. I believe in drink your own Kool-Aid formula. If I'm charging people, then equally I have to happily pay for it. So that's very clearly, I've been a paid consumer of all the publications as much as I want. Yes, that also means that everyone is going to now start charging, and accessing information will come at a price point, much like what has happened today in OTT space. Either you have the pocket to have all the connections from an Amazon to Netflix to Z5 to Alt Balaji to everyone, or you figure out what really resonates or who is offering what you want. So for us, when we have now embarked on the subscription model where we are asking the readers to pay, very clearly we are absolutely sure what we are doing and how we will go about it. What it does is it helps us because we are a brand which has stood for certain values and certain quality of content. We redouble our efforts to augment that entire process. But taught me during this lockdown period is that so many people have begun accessing content on the digital mode, but if they were always hooked on to the text part of it, it is the two V's that have accelerated further now. It is the voice and it is the video. People are consuming information not just in pure text format, but they're happy to listen to podcasts. I see more people taking a morning walk and an evening walk because they're boxed in their homes. And that clearly indicates that they will be happily listening to a podcast. Obviously, they're consuming a lot of video because bandwidth, thankfully, has gone in terms of prices, and access to bandwidth has become faster, better, easier, cheaper. So for us now, tailoring that content and information in multiple formats where the reader is happy to consume does become very important. And if you leave a superlative experience, then they are equally happy to pay for it. So for us, it all goes back to figuring out the best content in the best format, and then rest, you leave it to the consumer. He'll happily open the wallet for you.
Fantastic.
Well said.
Well, great. Well, Aman and Deepak, it's been absolutely wonderful having this candid conversation with both of you from different perspectives, but both merging. And thank you for your time. And it's over to you, Rahul.
Great. Even I think that was a wholesome discussion. Thank you everyone for taking out time from your busy schedule and joining us today. Appreciate you all being here. See you next time.
Thank you.
Thanks, Aman. Thanks,
Thank
Rahul
you.
and Akshara.
Thank
Pleasure.
you.
Take care.
Rahul.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.